Hello, everyone. In this session, I will discuss chapter number 9, an evaluation of competitive markets. So, I've already discussed the characteristics of a perfectly competitive market structure in chapter number 8. So now I am going to evaluate this market structure and will discuss two additional topics in this chapter. So these are the learning objectives. Explain how perfectly competitive markets encourage technological improvement and growth in the size of firms. Explain the benefits of perfectly competitive markets. Describe how government try to deal with external costs such as pollution. Explain how governments try to encourage production of goods and services such as education that carry external benefits. So we'll discuss how to internalize external cost and external benefits. So these are the two basic concepts, and we will actually evaluate each market structure on the basis of these two terms. One is called productive efficiency, and the other one is allocative efficiency. So, productive efficiency is simple, that if a firm is producing at its minimum average total cost, that is productive efficiency. That is, the firm is productively efficient or productive efficient. That is when firm produces as price equals to minimum of ATC. Okay, and if you remember in chapter number 8, we did discuss this, that in the long run, because of the free entry and exit, each firm uh, should be earning zero economic profit because of entry and exit, zero economic profit, and at the same time will be operating at the minimum of minimum average total cost. One thing you must remember, that zero profit does not mean that price is equal to minimum average cost, right? So if I write like here, if I write P equal to average total cost, if this is the case, then the firm is earning zero economic profit. But in a perfectly competitive market structure, price is not just equal to ATC, but also equal to minimum of ATC. In other market structures, we will see that firms are earning zero economic profit, but they are not operating at minimum average total cost. Why these firms are operating at minimum average cost? Because of pure competition, because the product is identical. So they have to compete. If they cannot produce at their minimum average cost, they can't compete with other firms who are already producing at the minimum ATC, and therefore will have to exit from the market. So this is what do we mean by productive efficiency. By allocative efficiency, I mean, although it's not, oh yeah, yeah, it is written here. Allocative efficiency is when price is equal to marginal cost. This is the meaning of allocative efficiency. That is, firms are producing output where price, that is the value that consumers attach to that product, is equal to the cost of producing that product, additional cost of producing that product. So for example, if price is equal to $8 and marginal cost is also equal to $8, it means that we are allocating resources efficiently. Why? Because the cost of using that resource is $8, and people are also valuing that product also equal to $8. So there's no misallocation of resources. For example, if the marginal cost of producing any product is $10 and the price is only $3, this is misallocation of resources. You are uh, spending more producing the product of $10, whereas people value that product only $3 worth, right? So this is misallocation of resources, and this is what we call allocative efficiency or inefficiency. Under perfectly competitive market structure, particularly in the long run, price is equal to minimum average total cost, and also price is equal to marginal cost. So firms operating under perfectly competitive market structure are both productive and allocative efficient. Now we have two concepts. I've already discussed this in the previous chapters. So we have two basic concepts. One is producer surplus, and the other one is consumer surplus. If you add these two surpluses, you get economic surplus, which is written here. The summation of consumer surplus and producer surplus is total surplus. What is producer surplus? This is the definition. The difference between the amount that producers would be willing to accept for each unit of output and the price they receive when the output is actually sold. So, for example, if I'm selling a product and I'm willing to accept $5 for that particular unit, and suppose if I receive $8 instead of 5, so my producer surplus would be $3 because I received $8, but I was willing to sell that product for $5 only. So the difference 8 and 5 would be $3. I can show you consumer surplus and producer surplus using this diagram. So if you look at this diagram, remember this is not one specific firm's diagram. This is an industry diagram. Okay, so the supply curve is the sum of the marginal cost curve of all firms, and this is a downward total demand curve. So equilibrium price is $5. This $5 is taken by all firms in this industry, and quantity per period is 5 as well. I don't know how many firms are in this industry, but if you notice that at the equilibrium price 5, you can see the area under the demand curve and above the equilibrium price, that is this whole triangle. This is called consumer surplus. And area above the supply curve and below the equilibrium price, that is this area, this triangle, okay? This triangle, this whole triangle is called producer surplus. So you can see that if all these firms together as an as an industry, if the total output is at this point, notice that these two triangles, the areas of these two triangles are maximum, because if you produce 4 here, then you can see this area is gone. So only you have a smaller consumer surplus triangle, a smaller producer surplus triangle. So under uh, perfectly competitive market structure, in the long run equilibrium, you can see total surplus is maximized. So total surplus is maximum. Let me delete this and show you that this is the maximum consumer, dark purple triangle and small purple triangle, right? But suppose if the output is at 4, if the industry produces at 4, then you see, this triangle, this small triangle, this this is gone. So both consumer surplus and producer surplus will decrease, and the total surplus will also be lower than what it was at 5 units. So at 5 units, the total surplus is maximized. I have So producer and consumer surplus in long run equilibrium. Productive efficiency means they are minimizing their cost because they can't survive. Maximizing surplus means allocative efficiency. So the significance of this is that both productive and allocative efficiencies have been achieved and economic surplus has been maximized, which is shown here in this diagram. So basically, let me quickly recapitulate what we did so far. So I just showed you, I can add, I don't know if I can add a slide. Okay, let me go back here. I'm sorry. Just give me a second because I just want to show you one thing and then I'll continue. So I am summarizing uh, this first part of this chapter. So I'm drawing a diagram for a perfectly competitive firm and the whole industry as well. So this is the industry diagram here. Here is the industry diagram. So this is the demand curve, if you remember. This is the supply curve, if you remember. This is equilibrium output. Let's write 600 output. This is equilibrium price. Let's say $5. So this is the whole industry diagram, right? And now I'm drawing one firm's diagram, right? One firm, one typical firm. So each firm will face this demand curve, which is exactly equal to $5. These firms cannot charge higher than $5 because no one will buy from them. And why they charge lower than $5? They can sell whatever each firm produces at $5 because the size of each firm is very small. And then I draw a marginal cost curve like this. So this is the marginal cost curve. The intersection price equal marginal cost is this. So that is, let's say, 6. So right away from this diagram, I can tell that there are 100 firms in this industry. If this is a long run equilibrium, then these firms should not be earning any abnormal profit. So their economic profit must also be zero. And therefore, average total cost must also be equal to $5. That is, average total cost must be somewhere here. And this is also marginal cost. So I draw an average total cost curve like this. So this is average total cost. Notice that average total cost is at its minimum always. Why? Because I know marginal cost intersects average total cost curve at its minimum, and that is why it's always minimum. So there's no profit. Now notice in this diagram, this is a long run equilibrium uh, for a competitive market structure. Notice two important things. Number one, I can write from the firm's point of view, price is equal to minimum of average total cost. That is called productive efficiency. What is allocative efficiency? Price is equal to marginal cost. So we have both efficiencies in this market structure, that is productive efficiency and market efficiency. Also, from the industry diagram, you can, if I extend this curve up to here, if I extend this curve here, so this area, this triangle, this is consumer surplus, and this triangle, this is called producer surplus. So you can see both total surplus, that is consumer surplus plus producer surplus, is maximized if the industry produces 600. If it produces less than 600, total surplus will not be maximized. So this is what we did in part one of this chapter, that there are two important characteristics. One, firms under perfectly competitive market structure, particularly in the long run, are both productive efficient and allocative efficient. Second, the total surplus, that is consumer surplus plus producer surplus, is maximized under this market structure. Okay, now let me go back to chapter number 9. So let me share my file. It takes few seconds. Okay, so we have done this, 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 and this. Now we have a new topic, of course, related to the same topic. So, firms under perfectly competitive market structure, or this market does not actually work if the nature of product is uh, somewhat different. That is, for certain types of goods and services, the market, that is perfectly competitive market, will not work. So we'll discuss those specific products. So there are two types of products, public goods and private goods. Although the title says public good and quasi-public goods, we'll discuss in a moment. What is a public good? So public goods are goods or services whose benefits are not affected by the number of users, that is non-rival. So a public good is always non-rival in consumption. Non-rival in consumption, and we'll discuss what do we mean by rivalry and non-rivalry, and from which no one can be excluded as well. So there are two important characteristics of a public good. That public good should be non-rival and should be non-excludable. You cannot exclude consumers from consuming it, right? For example, fireworks. So you can't ask people that since you have not paid for this firework and therefore you cannot see on the sky and all those fireworks. It's not possible. You can't exclude. You can't exclude. Similarly, is non-rival. By non-rival, I mean if I consume one product, the other person will also consume at the same time. So I always remember non-rival as a joint consumption property. So if a product is jointly consumed, that is non-rivalry. Right now, I'm recording this session. All students enrolled in this class can watch this session without impacting others. So if student A actually watches this recorded session, then student B can also watch the same recorded session. So there's no non-rivalry. Even you can watch this session at the same time as well. So the joint consumption is possible. And therefore, this product, that is this recorded session, is non-rival. But this is not non-excludable because the Red Deer Polytechnic has already excluded those who have not registered for this course. So only those who have paid the tuition and registered this course, right, will be able to watch these recorded sessions. So this lecture, this recorded lecture, is non-rival but excludable. If this is the case, that a product is non-rival, that is, has a joint consumption property, but excludable, this is called quasi-public goods. By quasi, I mean half. So half public good, because those goods and services have one characteristics of non-rivalness, but not non-excludability. Okay. The examples are a tornado siren, so you can't exclude anyone, and also it can be jointly consumed. Military defense, so military cannot say that I'm going to only defend one house and the neighboring house will not be defended. That's not possible. So you have both non-rivalry and non-excludability. The exactly opposite are basically private goods. By private goods, I mean that those goods that are rival in consumption. So, for example, if I am eating um, a burger, that burger will not be eaten by anyone else because I've already eaten that burger. So that is rivalry. Similarly, excludability is also there. So goods and services benefits can be denied to non-buyers, that is excludable, and whose consumption by one person reduces the amount available for others, that is rival. So example, restaurant meal and clothing, right? So you cannot wear two people, two persons cannot wear one t-shirt at the same time. So it's it's rival, and also is excludable, because if one wears, the other cannot be, and therefore will be excluded. So for private goods, the market works. That is perfectly competitive market works for private goods, not necessarily for public goods. Why? Let's see this. So this is the definition of non-rivalry and non-excludable. So you just read it. I don't have to read this. Quasi-public goods, private goods that are provided by government because they involve extensive external benefits for the general public, non-rival but excludable. These goods are normally provided by the government, and I'll give you examples later in this chapter. So now we have another term, that is what we call. So now we have another term, that is what we call externalities. So what are externalities? Externalities can be positive or negative. So positive externalities means benefits. Negative externalities mean costs. So externalities are basically benefits or costs experienced by people who neither produce nor consume a product. So if I am paying cost and I'm not consuming that product, and I'm also not the producer of that product, that is called negative externality. So if you are smoking, so I am not selling cigarettes, and I'm also not smoking, but I'm being impacted by that smoke. So that is negative externalities for me. So this is an example, costs that are incurred by people other than the producers or consumers both of a product. For example, pollution. What are external benefits? That is positive externalities, benefits that are enjoyed by people other than the producers or consumers of a product. For example, street lights. So these are the two products, right, with positive and negative externalities. Now I will discuss how these external costs and benefits impact the perfectly competitive market structure. So comparative markets, which we just discussed, that is perfectly competitive market structure, these markets ignore external costs and benefits. That is the problem. Remember, I've drawn a diagram of a perfectly competitive market where I had one industry diagram, the other diagram was for a firm. I did not even discuss external cost or external benefits. I just talk about private cost and private benefit, demand and supply, marginal cost, supply curve, that is private cost, demand, that is the benefit consumer are receiving, and then I find the equilibrium price. But if there are externalities, then these markets for these products will either produce more or produce less than what is optimal. So this is written here that produces too much when there are external costs, because producers are not incorporating those costs that are being imposed on others, on bystanders. So producers are actually producing more because they think the cost is less, because they're ignoring that external cost. and that is the reason they're producing more. Produces too little when there are external benefits. Why they're producing less? Because producers and also consumers are not including these external benefits. Producers, they don't care about external benefits, that other people are benefiting from that product, although they are not direct consumers. In that case, the production will be too little and should have been increased. So let's see how externalities, that is either external costs or external benefits, lead to allocative inefficiency. I just talked about allocative efficiency, if you remember. So now let me first discuss what is allocative efficiency. Okay, so let me write here, and you know this. By allocative efficiency, I mean when price is equal to marginal cost. This is the meaning of allocative efficiency. That price must equal to marginal cost. Now consider these two diagrams. In the first diagram, forget about MCS, that is marginal social cost. So just consider these two. Hold on a second. Let me fix that font. Oops, sorry. Yeah, 3. Okay. Let me change the color so that you can see. So I'm now considering only this marginal private cost. That's why we inserted P. So, earlier I was writing MC, marginal cost, but now there's a distinction between private and social cost. So I write marginal private cost. That is the supply curve. And demand curve is a regular demand curve, right? So if this is a perfectly competitive industry, then the output would be here. That is QPC, Q perfect competition. And price would be P perfect competition. And price, you can see, is equal to marginal cost, because this is marginal cost, right? This is marginal cost curve. So marginal cost and price both are equal, allocative efficiency, fine. But the problem is that this product has external cost as well. That is not included in the supply curve in this marginal private cost. The external cost is not included. That is the problem. And that is the reason why this industry is producing too much. How do I know too much? Because now I have to add external cost. So suppose if I add external cost to the private cost, then private cost plus external cost will be marginal social cost. So you can see I shifted the supply curve up because now it's more costly to produce. Why? Because I'm also including external cost into my decision-making process. So if I consider marginal social cost as a true marginal cost of this product, then notice that the output would be this point where demand, the same demand, intersects the marginal social cost curve. That is a new marginal cost curve that includes both private and external costs. And you can see then this output would be QAE. AE means allocative efficient or allocative efficiency. So this is the allocative efficient point, which is less than the perfectly competitive level of production. So basically, this industry is producing too much. Why too much? Because firms are not considering this external cost that they are imposing on others. Then government will have to intervene and fix this problem, because these farmers, they don't care the cost that other people are incurring because of this production process. Okay. The opposite is also true. So in the second diagram, if you notice, let me erase this. This product has external benefits. So for example, if I'm teaching this class, or okay, forget about this class because that is not appropriate. And the good example, suppose in any high school, teachers are teaching those students. There are private benefits, that is those students who are learning, and therefore they are benefiting from those sessions. But since they are is studying all different types of courses. So they are more knowledgeable, they are more sensible, and they abide rules and regulations. So the whole society benefit from their actions as well. So these are some of the positive benefits that society actually receives from their education. And that is the reason why government is spending millions of dollars subsidizing uh, K-12 education, because it will reduce crime rates, it will reduce the expenditures on police force, etc., etc. There are so many benefits. But if this market is privately owned, that is, if all education is provided by the private sector, there's no government regulation, then the total level of education will be at this point. This is the production point, and this is the price that these schools will charge, because private producers, they don't consider external benefits into their decision, uh, and therefore the product is QPC. But suppose if somehow government incorporates these external benefits, then the demand curve actually shifts upward by this amount. Why? Because now people are demanding more. Why they are demanding more? Because it is beneficial. And government also wants to increase the production of this product. Why? Because it benefits the whole society as well. What would happen when the demand curve shifts to the right? So actually, it's not shifting. Don't get confused. It's not shifting. I should not have used the word shift. See this, what I did here. This is the private cost. When you add the external cost, so your marginal cost curve would be this. We have added external cost. Same is here. This is the marginal private benefit. Marginal private benefits. That is demand. So these are the benefits that these consumers are deriving directly from the consumption of this product. But there are external benefits as well. So if we add external benefits, then total benefits definitely will be higher than private benefits. So this is what we call marginal social benefits, like marginal social costs. The moment the marginal social benefit, of course, is higher than marginal private benefits, so the equilibrium will be here. That is where marginal benefit equal marginal cost, or demand equals supply. And you can see the output should have been Q allocative efficient level. So if there are external benefits, private market, private farms, perfectly competitive farm will produce less than what is required. If there are external costs, then private farms will produce more than what is required. Okay, so there's misallocation of resources. There's, they are not allocative efficient because of the external benefits and external cost. Now, integrating external cost or internalizing external cost, how we are going to integrate external costs. That is, producers can actually consider this cost when they decide how many units to produce. So policymakers, that is governments, attempts to determine the value of important externalities and integrate these into the production process by three basic ways. So government can integrate these in external cost or external benefits using three ways, but I am concentrating here only integrating external costs. What are these three ways? These are the three ways that you have to read from your textbook as well. I'm just discussing them succinctly, briefly. Number one, command and control policy. That is one way to integrate external costs. That is, government orders farms to use technology and reduce pollution. Of course, when these farms will use new technology to reduce pollution, it will increase their cost of production. So basically, the cost is added to their cost. Why? In order to reduce pollution. So they're integrating that external cost. Tradable permit system. So government limits the emission of pollutants. Farms are given the right to emit a certain level of pollutants. And then, by tradable permit system, I mean that farms, those who are polluting more, they can buy these permits from another farm who are not polluting more, right? So there's a market for these permits as well. And this is why we call it tradable permit. So farms can trade these permits among themselves. Second, third one is, or third policy, or third, is it says third ways, right? Corrective taxes or corrective subsidies. So government charges if farms pollute. Why government is charging? Because according to government, these farms are polluting and therefore they're imposing cost to the society. Who's going to pay those costs? Producers. And therefore government will impose taxes on producers. Remember one thing, it doesn't matter. Government can also impose taxes on consumer as well, those who are consuming that product. The result will be the same. It depends on the elasticity of demand and supply. Remember, we talked about in chapter number 3, when government imposes taxes, it doesn't matter whether the tax is imposed on consumers or on sellers. The distribution of the burden uh, will depend on the elasticities of demand and supply. Okay. Similarly, corrective subsidies. Government reimburses firms that purchase emission reducing equipment. So government is giving incentive, right? So that you can reduce the external cost by purchasing emission reducing equipment. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to discuss all these three possibilities, but I will discuss these two by using a couple of diagrams. That is corrective taxes and corrective subsidies. So what I'm going to do, I will show you how government will actually integrate these external costs and external benefits. So I've already discussed this, the marginal private cost and marginal social cost. So the additional cost to both the producer internal cost, that is marginal private cost, and society external cost of producing additional quantities of a product. So I've already discussed this. I don't need to discuss this slide. Okay, so this is a simple, I've already done this example in elasticity chapter when a tax is imposed, right? So first, try to understand this diagram first. So you all know that this is marginal private cost. This is marginal social cost. Remember, marginal social cost is not just external cost. Marginal social cost is external cost plus marginal private cost. So marginal social cost is the total cost to the society, private cost and external cost that producers are imposing on others. And it's already written here, external costs are the difference between marginal social cost and marginal private cost. Okay. Now, integrating external cost through a tax moves Q and P to the social optimum. Now see what is happening actually. So first, I have already shown you earlier, but let me discuss, systematically. So this is marginal private cost. This is demand. The equilibrium is Q1. Equilibrium price is P1. If there were no external cost, if there are no externalities, then this market will be allocative efficient. You can see price equal to marginal cost. That is, price P1 is also equal to my marginal private cost. But the problem is that the production is imposing costs on others that is not integrated. That is why this market or this industry is producing Q1, which is higher than Q2. Suppose if we know, or government knows, that the external cost is equal to the gap between the MPC and MSC curve, right? So this whole gap, this whole distance, this whole distance is the external cost. So what government will do? Government will actually impose tax, a tax that is corrective tax on, in this diagram, on the producers. Why? Because they are government trying to increase their cost of production. Government wants these producers to incorporate that external cost in their production decision, because right now they are not including that cost, and that is why they are producing more. So the level, the moment the tax is levied, that is equal to the external cost equal to E and C. E and C, basically this point E and this point C, this is the gap, right? What would happen? See this. So let me erase this and then see. So if government imposes a collective tax on the producers equal to the amount of the external cost, what would happen? Notice that the price of this product will increase from P1 to P2. So this is a new price. Okay. So now consumers who were initially paying P1, now they are paying P2. But notice the increase in price from here to here is not equal to the total external cost. External cost or the amount of tax was higher than this amount. Okay. So consumers are also contributing to uh, this corrective tax. But producers, that is sellers, are receiving P2 price, but they are paying taxes as well. So they are technically are getting this price I'm writing here. So they are getting now P3 prices. Why? Because they have to pay taxes as well. So although they receive P2, but then they pay taxes of this amount to the government, so they will end up with only P3. So there's a decrease in price for suppliers as well from P1 to P3. So notice both producers and uh, consumers, or both buyers and sellers, they both are contributing to this tax, right? Not necessarily equally. It depends on the elasticity of the supply curve, that is marginal social cost, and demand curve. So with the imposition of this corrective uh, of a corrective tax, notice what happened here. It, if you notice, output has gone down. See, from here, from Q1 to Q2. So production has gone down. And remember, in the earlier diagram, I showed you that this Q2 is actually QAE, that is, this is allocative efficient. But prices are slightly higher, not P1, but P2, because of these external costs. Okay. Integrating external benefits. So suppose if a product has external benefits, then government will, give incentive to these producers to produce more, because they are not considering those benefits into their production decision, because they only consider direct consumer who are benefiting from their production. So there are two ways. Number one, provision of quasi public goods. The government will provide these goods. For example, education, healthcare, transportation. So these are goods that have external benefits. But what is provided varies widely across countries. Of course, I'm talking about Canada. So yes, you have K-12 education free, you have healthcare free. So there are lots of these services that are provided by the government. Second, government might also allow private sectors to produce, but give them subsidy. For example, in daycare. So what I'm going to do, I will not I'm going to draw, I'll show you two diagrams, right, of external benefit, and see how government will integrate these benefits. So I don't have to review this marginal private benefits, marginal social benefits, same as marginal private cost and marginal social cost. These are the definition, just read. Now, so this is the diagram, very similar, but this time notice that we have external benefits, not external cost. Okay. Now I'm talking about right now, I'm not talking about the services provided by the government, for example, school, education or health. I'm talking about government subsidies. So let's take the example uh, uh, daycare or whatever, or even education. So let's say uh, any college, because RDP and other colleges, they are also receiving government grants, right? So government is also subsidizing these schools as well. So this is an example of, let's say, this is an example of education, okay? So the private market for education is this. So this is marginal private benefit. That is the utility or benefits that students derive from the education. And that is the marginal private cost. This is a cost of providing this education. And the equilibrium is here. So price is 800 and quantity is 50,000. Okay. Now, if government thinks that this activity has external benefits, then government, suppose, will give subsidy to parents, which is given here, of $200. So parents, if they send their children to school, they will receive of $200. So parents, if they send their children to school, they will receive $200. What would happen? Of course, these benefits will increase. So marginal private benefit will shift to the right by this amount. I'm sorry, by this amount. And this amount is 200. So the whole curve will shift upward by 200. Why I shifted this curve? Not shifted basically. I've drawn a marginal social benefit curve that is higher than the marginal private benefit, exactly equal to 200. Why 200? Because we think that the external benefit is worth $200, suppose. Now see what would happen. So now you have marginal social benefit curve here. So the all benefits are now in the decision making process. Notice that the new equilibrium point will be here, and new equilibrium quantity is more. Private market was supplying only this. Now, if you integrate external benefits, the production will be higher. But who are benefiting? Although the subsidy is provided to the parents, but both schools, that is producers, and parents, both will benefit. How? From this diagram, you can see the equilibrium price has gone up from 800 to 900. So now producers or school is now receiving $900, let's say tuition. So they are getting $100 extra. They were initially earning 800, receiving 800, now they are receiving 900. They don't have to pay anything to the government because parents are receiving subsidies from the government. So schools, they are just earning now $900, $100 extra. So producers are also benefiting. But parents are not actually paying this $900. Parents are paying only $700 because they are getting $200 from the government. So parents are actually paying, see, only $700, 100 less. They're also benefiting. So in this diagram is drawn in such a way that both are benefiting equally. So the $200 is distributed between producers and consumers equally, $100 each. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether subsidy is giving to parents or to schools. The impact will be the same. It all depends on the elasticity of demand and supply only. But it doesn't matter on whom government should, or to whom government should give this subsidy. Okay. So now I'm going to show the same thing again, but this time, read this first. Integrating external benefits through a subsidy to sellers, not to parents, that is consumers, students, parents basically, but to sellers. And this is example of, let's say, daycare. So government thinks that daycare has positive external benefits or external benefits. When I say benefits, I don't have to say positive. So suppose if this activity has external benefits of the amount of $200. Now this time, government is giving a subsidy to sellers, not to buyers. What would happen? Sellers' costs will decrease. Why? Because they are receiving money from the government as well. So if you notice here, and exactly opposite of external cost, marginal private cost was this, marginal private benefit was this, equilibrium quantity was this, equilibrium price 800. Now when government gives a subsidy to the sellers of $200, then their cost will decrease by $200. So the whole curve will shift downward, and now you have a new supply curve, that is marginal private cost plus subsidy, that is equal to 200. See what would happen when you have a new marginal. This is also called marginal social cost. So the intersection of marginal social cost will give you this quantity. So see, quantity has gone up. Why? Government increases the level of production using subsidy because government wants this output, wants this level of production to go up. Why? Because it has external benefits. Now notice from the price side what is happening. See, initially both sellers and buyers are paying $800 and receiving $800. Okay. Now with this subsidy of 200, equilibrium price has gone down to 700. You can see this is the new equilibrium point, $700. So the price is $700. Now buyers are paying $700 only. So $700, buyer are paying $700 instead of 800. So they are benefiting of $100 from that subsidy. So they are also sharing the benefits, $100. What about sellers? Sellers are earlier, sellers were receiving, before subsidy, sellers were receiving 800. Now they are not receiving 800 because they, of course, they did receive, they do receive $800, but from this $800, they are receiving actually 200 subsidy from the government as well. So their cost actually is only $600 because they received $200 from the government. Okay, so or let me put, actually this is incorrect diagram. This is not incorrect, it's confusing. I know what I'm saying. So let me delete this, right? Because I don't know why we are not going to use this 600, right? Because they are not paying 200 from this 800. They are receiving 800, 200 extra dollars, suppliers. So let me put this way and you will understand. I remember last semester I had the same issue. Okay, let me raise this. And don't worry, it will be clear to you. If not, you have my cell number. See this. So I will just concentrate on prices. Okay, just prices. See what is happening. I marked like this. This is the initial equilibrium. 800 price. So both sellers and buyers are paying $800. Sellers are receiving $800. Simple. Now, when a subsidy is given to these daycare centers, their cost will decrease, and now we have this marginal social cost curve, new supply curve. So the production will be at this point. Okay. Now the price is 700. This is equilibrium price. What is the meaning of equilibrium? Buyers and sellers are trading this product at this price, 700. So buyers are paying $700, $100 less from 800. Why they are paying less? Because this is the new equilibrium price. Suppliers, that is daycare, they are willing to accept children at this rate, 700 per children, suppose. But what about suppliers? Suppliers, that is daycare owner, they are receiving $700 from the parents. So this $700 they are receiving from parents, and they are receiving $200 from the government as well. So 7 plus 2, $900. So I'll go here instead of, this is incorrect line, should not have been drawn. So I go from, this is the new equilibrium, I go up and then I go here. See, this is 900. So technically, sellers, that is these daycare centers, they are receiving now $900, not $700, because they receive 700 from the parents and 200 subsidy, $900. So actually, they are receiving only $100 extra. So notice, consumers are paying 100 less, sellers are receiving 100 more, both are benefiting. So the subsidy of 200 is equally divided between sellers and buyers, $100 each. So what I have shown you here, it doesn't matter if subsidy is provided to these sellers, the impact will be the same. Both are benefiting from this subsidy. If subsidy is given to, oh, sorry, if subsidy is given to parents, in this case, that is to buyers, the result is same. The benefit is shared by both sellers and buyers. So that's all as far as this chapter is concerned. So we have completed particularly this last concept, that how governments can discourage production of goods with external costs and encourage production of goods with external benefits. But you must remember one important thing in this chapter, that is, it does not matter on whom the tax is imposed. It doesn't matter. So if a farm is polluting by producing one product, let's say X, if government is imposing taxes on consumer who are using that product, does not make any difference. The impact will be the same if government imposes taxes on producers who are actually polluting or creating external cost. Okay, so let me stop here. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.